Welcome back. Happy 2016. This is Telling Stories, and I'm Christopher Schultz, your host. Today we are going to draw a topic from Hulk's hand. I don't really want to do Donald Trump. It's kind of been done to death. Let's see if there's anything else in here. Is it all just Donald Trump? One assumes. Come on, there's got to be... Let's not talk about the real Don. Instead, let's talk about Kevin O'Leary, the Donald Trump of the North. It is an analogy that is far more fitting once you actually dig into the nature of these two characters. So let's start with the first and most obvious. They are both business people, neither of whom have any particular qualifications on making policy. That's kind of one of the problems in society. Business people keep making policy. It doesn't really benefit society. It benefits their pocketbooks. But let's dig into this comparison a little more. First of all, we've got Donnie T, who is running for the Republican nomination and hopes to be the next president of the United States. And then you've got Kevin O'Leary, who is talking about running for the conservative leadership and presumably hopes to be the next prime minister of Canada. But of course, the similarities don't end there. In fact, both of these guys are terrible business people. How? Well, for starters, we can dig into their financial records and their company performances over the years. So let's start with Donald Trump. His record is already quite well known for anybody who's not a total fanboy and a homer. He has lost anywhere from 1/4 to 3/4 of the net value of his father, Fred Trump's company. Another issue with Donald Trump is that he's a bit shady. More than a bit shady. In fact, it's well known that in the 1990s, when Donald Trump's enterprise was under creditor protection, he basically drove out of business a whole swath of mom-and-pop construction shops as well as private investors. And he walked away basically scot-free. And seriously, Americans, is this the guy you really want running the country? A guy who runs the mom-and-pop shops into the ground so that he can fatten his own wallet? But you might be thinking, well, Chris, what about Kevin O'Leary? He's clearly a more successful business person. Incorrect. So Kevin O'Leary made his fortune by selling educational software. He claims he was the best at this, and this is why he was so successful. In fact, what had happened was his fortunes were already floundering once upon a time. It just turned out that Mattel was also struggling and wanted to hitch themselves to what they thought was the wave of the future. The end result was Kevin O'Leary making a fortune while his company sold off, and financial analysts look back at that deal as one of the worst business deals of all time. The whole situation cost Mattel dearly, cost Kevin O'Leary his job, and ultimately resulted in O'Leary being accused of insider trading. Now, you might be wondering about that. The whole thing with Kevin O'Leary is that most of his fortune was actually made when he cashed out his Mattel shares just before the stock plummeted. Now, since then, in the late 90s, Kevin O'Leary has hitched his chariot to a variety of different businesses, none of which have succeeded. Kevin O'Leary seems to have a problem with hitching a ride on ascendant trends in business, only to realize that he doesn't actually have the abilities to run the businesses themselves. And usually, a whole bunch of people get screwed in the process. O'Leary, by the way, has been sued a whole bunch of times. So really the big theme here is that, well, they both seem perfectly appropriate as conservative leaders of their day. So thanks for tuning in this week. This has been Telling Stories. I'm Christopher Schultz. Please subscribe below. And if you like what I have to say, or even if you don't like it, you can leave a comment and I'd be happy to respond to you. Thanks again. We'll talk to you guys next week.